Michigan State 9-4 last year, 15 returning starters. D'Antonio, their coach. Offensive line is nasty. First team freshman All-American Joel Foreman, who's now a sophomore left tackle. Joel Nichman, the center. 3 returning starters on the O-line. Mark Dell and Blair, second team Big East, are Nichols' targets this year.
Well, in the Big Ten, you have to be able to run the ball and play good defense. So I love the fact that they lose, the big running back.
Javon Ringer.
It's hard to replace him, but they're going to start 2 true freshmen. Edwin Baker is a real good player, and Larry Caper is another good back. So I'm interested to see how those true freshmen play out. Wide receivers, a veteran group. They're talented. The top 4 receivers return. Mark Dell is a deep threat. Look for them to get the ball deep to him down the field.
Michigan State has a pedigree of producing those great backs all the way back to the T.J. Duckett days. Javon Ringer, they're bringing them in
Lorenzo
left and
White.
right.
So it's and that offensive line could surprise.
Defensive side of the ball, Orrin Wilson leads the defense along with Greg Jones, first team All Big East linebacker, and they bring in a freshman, Chris Norman, who's going to start at linebacker. That's a nice linebacking core for the Spartans.
Well, the run defense last year was good in spurts. They had their moments, but also they get 8 starters returning. 7. The front 7 looks really, really good. I like the front 7. Trevor Anderson, defensive end, 8 sacks last season. He's returned with the angry streak, and he looks to improve. He wants to get double-digit sacks.
Junior cornerback Chris Rucker will man the secondary.
The secondary at Michigan State is solid. Those guys out there can tackle.
Versus Central Michigan and at Notre Dame out of conference, and they have 5 road games, 4 in conference. The thing is that this team does not have a bye. I think that might hurt them.
Yeah, they got to toughen up and swallow up their pride and keep it moving. October 10th against Illinois at Illinois should be a big game.
From Lansing to Ann Arbor, Rich Rodriguez, second year as Wolverines head coach. A disaster, 3-9 in his opening season, but he showed at West Virginia in his second year improvements, and he got improved 15 returning starters. Tate Forcier, Denard Robinson, 2 true freshmen are going to battle for the job. Brandon Minor, the senior running back, he's going to be their go-to guy in offense.
If Brandon Minor can solve his fumbling problems, he'll be a good back. You look at the quarterback, Tate Forcier, true freshman, supposed to start out there in Michigan in the Big Ten. That's a tall order. He must be a heck of a player. I'm interested to see how he's going to do in that spread offense. And you look at year 2 under Rich Rodriguez and that system that they run, that spread, expect improvements. I think they're going to be okay on offense.
The wide receivers are all right, too. Greg Matthews, Martavius Odoms, and they bring in Jerron Stokes. Although 6'1", 180 needs to beef up, they're still there. Steven Schilling leading their offensive line.
I like their offensive line. They had a transition period last year. You had those big, beefy guys trying to run the spread. Now they get more of their players in, and they understand the system. I look for improvement on the Michigan offensive line.
Michigan knows how to breed those offensive linemen. It's offensive line
Yep.
5 returning on defense only. This is the question mark for Michigan. Rodriguez can get the offense going. They need to step up on defense. Brandon Graham, the DN. Obi Aze, the linebacker. And Stevie Brown's going to move up from safety to linebacker. And, of course, a highly touted out of high school coming out cornerback, Donovan Warren.
Well, my only question is when they're running a 3-4, they have to get pressure up front. They have to control those gaps, those linebackers. That's why they moved the safety to linebacker, because he got more speed to come off the edge. Also, they gave up 28 points a game last year. That has to improve.
Good defensive tackles in the past. Alan Branch, Gabe Watson. They're going to bring in Will Campbell as defensive tackle.
And that defense collapsed late last season, so they held their own in the beginning and just, bottom fell out.
Craig Rowe, Anthony Lolata will play defensive end, true freshman. JT Turner is going to try to help out the secondary. Those are the freshmen. Out of conference, they have Notre Dame, of course, and it's going to be interesting. They get at home, they get Ohio State this year, and they're at Michigan State, at Iowa.
It's a tough slate. I just see Michigan trying to hold their own out there in Ann Arbor.
Wisconsin 7-6, 11 returning starters from that year. Brett Bielema already in his 4th year. Phillips is their quarterback. John Clay, very highly touted athlete out of high school. He's going to be their running back. Garrett Graham, their tight end.
You look at John Clay, 6'2", 247. He was a better back to me than P.J. Hill was last year. So I like to see John Clay in a full slate. 9 touchdowns last season, so he's going to help that offense. offensive line is very talented. When you talk Wisconsin football, you have to talk offensive line. There's big guys out there in Wisconsin, so they will help quarterback Dustin Scherrer or Kirk Phillips, whoever's going to be the starter back there. They have a veteran offensive line and a good running back in John Clay to hand the ball to.
They're trying to take the model after Michigan with their offensive line. Gabe Karimi, he'll try to man it. Look out for Craig Appleton, the wide receiver, to make plays.
And Al Toone's son, Nick Toone, is just in the model of his father, 6'3", 200 pounds, long, athletic, can make big plays. And they have a talented wide receiver group. It's a veteran group, so that should also help out that offense.
Can their defense get stops? Because this is how Wisconsin likes to win. Defense run the ball. Jay Valai is the anchor in the secondary as a safety.
And you look at the secondary, it's the strength of that defense. And you look at secondary players as of the past, Jim Lionheart. You look at one of the best players ever to play the position probably in college football, Jamal Fletcher. So Wisconsin has a history of producing top secondary players. But I like Niles Brinkley, 4 interceptions last season. He's a solid pro prospect as well too. Second team All Big Ten. Jay Valai and Aaron Henry, the other cornerback, can play as well.
They host Fresno early. The season finale is in Hawaii. Don't let that be a vacation for you Badgers. And they're at Ohio State.
That's the big game on my list. Ohio State, October 10th.
Minnesota, 7-6 last year. Tim Brewster showed improvements. They're opening up a new stadium over there. 17 returning starters. Adam Weber, the quarterback, and he likes to throw to this guy, Eric Decker, wide receiver, first team All Big East, but don't forget about the JUCO transfer, Ayo Carpenter.
Adam Weber, 62% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns. He always finds Eric Decker. He could be the best wide receiver in the nation that nobody's ever heard of. I love Decker. Dwayne Bennett is the leading rusher last year, along with DeLone. I can't pronounce it. Escroji, he comes back as well. He's a good runner. So you look at they have a solid offense. They bring those guys back. But I like Weber. He's smart with the football, makes good decisions. 4
returning starters on that offensive line. Defensive side of the ball, second team All Big East corner Trey Simmons leads the way. They need more out of their defense, the Gophers.
Well, they were plus 12 in a turnover differential, so they can get their hands on a lot of balls. 14 interceptions. They had last season. All those guys that made those interceptions came back, so they have 8 starters returning. Trey Simmons, 4 interceptions. That's big for a corner. 24 points a game is the problem I have. They have to show up that defensive front, but I do like middle linebacker Lee Simmons, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 80 tackles.
Another Simmons. At Syracuse, they host Air Force and Cal. Interesting out-of-conference schedule. Brutal road schedule in the Big Ten, at Penn State, at Ohio State, and at Iowa.
They have a tough 2 months of the season. You look at their September slate, Air Force, Cal, at Northwestern. Then October you have at Penn State and at Ohio State. That's tough. They have to survive murderous road for those 2 months.
Northwestern 9-4 last year, 13 returning starters. Pat Fitzgerald in his 4th year. He's done a great job since the tragedy of their head coach dying. Kafka is their quarterback, and 4 returning offensive linemen. And you can't mention this team without I think this guy's going to be a first-round draft pick, Corey Wooten, defensive end.
That's a guy that I love to watch play. He reminds me a lot of Jason Taylor. He's a real aggressive guy. A little bit bigger than Taylor he was at Akron. But you look at the defense, 8 starters returning. They gave up 3.6 yards per carry, 20 points a game, which is not bad for Northwestern. Awesome defensive line. You got Vince Brown, Corey Wooten. Safety, you got Brad Phillips back there, a real good hitter. 108 tackles as a safety. You don't want your safety to get that many tackles, but he is a player, and he also had 3 interceptions last season.
8 returning on defense. Also, sophomore Jordan Maben, who was a first-team freshman All-American last year. 4 returning on the O-line. See if they can get enough offense out of them. They're going to play enough defense.
Well, they got a young offensive line, a young quarterback, young wide receivers. So they have to hold their own on offense. That defense is going to have to win a lot of games. But they do have a senior quarterback in Mike Kafka. Senior quarterback. The young running back, young line, young receiver. But they have the senior leadership at the quarterback position. That's going to help them out a lot.
At Syracuse, out of conference, can they handle Big Ten play?
I think this team could be 6-0 by the time they meet Michigan State. So I want you to and they get Penn State at home, and they avoid Ohio State. So keep an eye on Northwestern.
They're getting a preseason pick soon.